Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Howarth. I'm the new assistant principal here at Florida Gulf Coast University Middle School. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited by this opportunity to work with such a great group of teachers. I've studied up on your data and your numbers from last year. I'm excited. Some things you're going to learn about me, guys. I believe as a teacher, we are not just in the teaching industry. We are definitely in a management and relationship industry. So you know, every time you come to me and I push out into your classrooms, just know I'm always going to be looking at relationships. I'm always going to be looking at building that rapport with the students. And I'm going to ask you how your relationships are going with students. I believe management is a big key. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is what I'm looking for in a management kind of position. All right? Because many of you guys know, some kids are tougher to deal with than others, right? But if we want our classrooms to go harmoniously, then we got to be not only helping them academically, but managing their behavior and putting it into a constructive way. And that always comes down to starting with relationships. All right, and I hope to build that relationship with you guys first off. But to do that, let's go ahead and I can tell you guys a little bit about myself. Just a little bit about me, guys, so that you know where I'm coming from. I have taught math before. My most recent work was actually as a civics teacher. But prior to that, I taught both 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math levels along with Algebra 1 honors. I was an ESE paraprofessional for years. I've been around the block a time or two. I've had the high kids, I've had the low kids, I've had the medium kids. I've taught, like I said, all levels of mathematics. I'm very familiar with how it works. So from a curriculum standpoint, I've walked in your guys' shoes. You know, I know what needs to be hit the most, and I'm excited to work with you guys to find out how we can especially knock down to certain standards, specifically our power standards on, especially when it comes to mathematics. Because if we can hit the core standards, it makes everything else easier. And like I said, I won't bully this too much more in today's meeting, but just know, I have experience teaching math. I enjoy teaching math. I'm humble enough to say that I had some pretty good test scores in my day as a math teacher, and I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that part of my life there. So just know when I'm sitting in your classrooms, I know what you're going through. All right, I know that some lessons are tougher than others. All right, and I know some go quicker than others. And I trust you guys on your pacing, and I trust that your math department heads and your math coaches are leading you in the right place. So let me first get to know you guys a little better now that you know me. So the first way I'm going to get to know you guys is actually a game I used to play with my students on the first day of school. It's called 2 Truths and 1 Lie. So on the index card I provided you, I want you to guys write down 2 things that are true about yourself and 1 that's a lie, and kind of do it in any order you want. Then what we're going to do is we're then going to go around the table and share with it, and we have to try to figure out which is the truth and which is the lie. All right, so I'll give you guys my 2 truths and a lie really quick, and you guys can try to figure out which one it is. So my first truth is I'm a huge Arkansas Razorback fan. I have an older brother, and I've been a teacher for 5 years. All right, any guesses? I am, in fact, a Razorback fan, but I don't have an older brother. I actually have an older sister who lives up in Georgia. So that one was my lie. Why don't you go ahead and share with us? Well, now that I got to meet all of you, let's talk about what I'll be looking for. Now, part of my assignment here in the school is that I'll actually be conducting the classroom walkthroughs for all math and social studies teacher. So specifically, let's talk about the math department this year. Now, I always set up, when I'm doing my walkthroughs, I always try to set up an academic goal that I'm looking for and a behavioral goal. Obviously, these are on top of the assigned walkthroughs interventions that the district provides us. So these are just things that I like to look for, that I like my teachers to work on, so that it's just something that we can have a discussion with. Obviously, this won't really have to do with your overall rating at the end of the year, but this is just something that I like to do professionally myself when I was actually a teacher, to kind of give myself goals. So obviously, why do I have two goals? Well, academic goals, our goal every year is always going to be academically focused. Schools would be pretty pointless if we didn't have high academic goals and standards for ourselves. So setting an academic goal, it's just something we can definitely see and have it incorporated into our everyday lessons. A behavior goal goes back to my relationship building methods. And that is, as teachers, we're not just educators, we're managers. We have to manage our classrooms. And so I always try to have a behavior goal or a manager goal that I like my teachers to work on, just to make us better educators. And, it might not be the same goal might not continue to the next semester, but it's something that you might say, wow, this really worked for me, and I'm going to continue it even though it's not necessarily what Mr. Howarth's going to be looking for in my walkthrough. So our academic focus for semester 1 is identifying our gains. And what that's going to look like is, I want every classroom to have a tracking system where the students are tracking their gains. It's great that you guys are doing it, and I understand teachers are always looking over their data. That's fantastic, and I implore you to continue doing that, especially standards-based. But I want the students specifically to be able to identify the gains they're making on the monthly or bi-monthly district checkpoints we perform. I'll put it on your guys' math coach and department heads if we want to have a standardized chart across the school, or if you guys want to do it by grade level, because I know each grade level or even class level, between 8th grade Algebra and Honors, Geometry, have their own system of tracking data. So I'll put that on you guys, but I just want to be able to visibly walk into a classroom and see that these students specifically themselves know where they are academically. So for your bottom quartile classes, what I'm looking for is, if a student's in a 1C bucket, I want to know if that student knows what it means to move into a 1B, a 1A. If the student's at a 3, I want to see them trying to move up to that 4, so that I could maybe walk in, go to any one of your students, be like, hey, where are you on this chart right now? And they'll be able to show me, hey, this is my index card or my sticker, and I moved up from a 2A to a 3, and that's what I'm looking for. I want them to identify the gains they are making academically in our classes. So my behavior focus for semester 1 is going to be about engagement. My biggest priority, honestly, is to always try to have engaging lessons. Sometimes this means using manipulatives. A lot of times, guys, it's just the simple things like, does a student have a book out when you're supposed to be doing notes? Are they on their Chromebook? Do they have headphones in? These are all behaviors that we can definitely manage, but oftentimes we kind of push by, like, oh, that's just Billy, he listens to music. Well, we want to try to stop that behavior and move into an engaged academically behavior. And again, if you're having trouble in the classroom, please come to me. Let's create an intervention plan for these students that are disengaged. But I would also warn you that engagement it's 50-50. Like, the students, you have to will them to be engaged, yes, but you yourself, you have to be engaged, and you have to captivate the classroom. You have to have a lesson worth being engaged in. All right? If we're just standing on the board like Charlie Brown's teacher going, want, that is not necessarily an engaging lesson. All right. So I want to see not only the students engage in the lesson, I want to see you guys engaging with the students. This can go through questioning methods. This can go through use of manipulatives. Having an outdoor class one day to study do proportions and rates. I know when I was an 8th grade math teacher and we were teaching shadow reckoning for FSA, I would have a day project where the students would go. I had a pre-made worksheet. The kids would go outside. They'd have to find an object. They'd measure the shadow, and they would use the shadow and the proportion reckoning of their own shadow and size to figure out what is the height of a flagpole actually. That's a simple lesson that the students were engaged. I actually had a kid who's in 11th grade say that he remembered my lesson from 8th grade when he had to answer a question on FSA. So that made me feel really good. So engagement has to be a key focus for all teachers at our school this year, and something I'm going to be looking for as I'm walking through classrooms. So that brings us to today's academic focus action item. All right, yeah, it's a fancy name, not too fancy of an idea. Basically, all this is going to do is back to our academic focus of identifying gains. I've created this worksheet for you guys to do that I've already distributed. Basically, all I want you to do is look at, if you bring up the Renaissance, and go to your baseball card, you're able to actually look at your previous year students' FSA data. So what I want you to do is take your school year 17-18 data and your school year 18-19 data, and I actually want you to compare it. I want you to say, okay, I had X amount of students that were level 1. Where did they end up with me? Did they stay 1 to 1? Did they go 1 to 2? Did they maybe get up to a 3 or a 4? And I want you guys to literally visualize, what does that look like? How many of your students made gains? How many of your students maybe lost the level? Because that's something we need to identify. It's a pretty simple worksheet, but I have Ms. Paul, Mr. Sinicola. I pre-trained them on how to do it so that they can come around and assist you. I'll also be joining a table to help you guys fill out your charts. It should be simple, take us 15-20 minutes, and then I'll have you guys out of here in time so that you can get up to your classroom before students arrive. So let's get that started.